What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Club Lorcana podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jeremy Bertarioni. With me, as always, Syed.
Hello.
And sitting next to me, friend of the podcast, Ryan Walker. Ryan, say hi to everybody.
Let's go.
Okay. You're so excited. What are you so happy about?
I'm a friend. Did you hear that?
Wow, you've upgraded. It's like a Pokemon evolution.
Oh, yeah. We'll cover a little bit about Ryan's upgrade a little bit later on in the podcast. We're going to save the housekeeping for the end. Up top, I wanted to talk about, usually we like to lead with a little bit of a meta report. I think the easiest way to do that is talk about basically all of our weekends. So, Zan, you just got back from Austin, Texas.
I did.
Playing in the, for a good cause, Hunter Burton Memorial Open.
Yep.
Honoring one. What did you decide to play?
I ran back Blue Steel.
Ran back Blue Steel. Exactly the same or with a difference?
No, I will call this version 3 with the Queen.
What's funny is the version that I played at SSG, I have saved on my Dreamborn or whatever as version 3. So really? I think your Queen version is my version like 7. But okay, so you're playing the Queen. This is a blue 3-drop 3/3. It has the ability to, and I'm not as familiar with this card as you, so you might have to correct me, but it has the ability to exert. You can look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You can choose an item and put it into your hand. If it costs 3 or less, you can play it for free, but it's exerted.
Yes.
Great. And so what drew you to this card? So I don't typically like this card, and I'll say all the bad stuff about it, and then you can tell me where I'm wrong.
Sure.
Doesn't do anything as soon as you play it. It has to untap for a turn. It's hard to get value with it twice because it's a 3/3 body that trades off a lot of the times in combat. Although I guess if you activate it, get a card, and then it trades off in combat, then you still kind of got your value. But to me, it just seems like a little slow. And of course, the brick potential is like pretty high, even a deck like this. So talk to me about where I'm wrong.
Okay, so if you think the brick potential is too high, then don't even play Scrooge. Don't even play Ariel. Don't play any of these cards. You don't deserve to play anyone.
I'm not playing Ariel, so that's fine.
But you get what I'm saying? Like these are the effects, and you have to do the math and figure out whether it's good or bad, right? Like you've played 20 items or 19 items, and basically, I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's like 70 plus to hit an item when you play. Obviously it goes up and down depending on how many items are in your hand or are in play already. But the thought process is we need to play more threats, right? Like what we realize is if our removal lines up with our opponent, it's never enough. There's not enough removal spells to line up with our opponent. You got to deal with an Oswald. If you can't deal with an Oswald, then you got to deal with the Queen. If you can't deal with the Queen, you got to deal with the Hiram. If you can't deal with the Hiram, you got to deal with the baby Tamatoa. If you can't deal with the baby Tamatoa, you lose, right? And then if you can't deal with the big Tamatoa, you lose also. So every step of the way, you're playing a threat.
Sure.
And so it was just filling another hole.
Yeah.
Right? It's basically saying, hey, answer this Queen. So now if you're playing Blue Steel and your opponent is playing Blue Steel, how do you answer a turn 3 Queen?
Opponent's playing Blue Steel. Well, if you have 3 characters, then you can Strength of Raging Fire it with a bell.
Okay, so do you think that is more likely to hit an item off the top 4 or have 3 characters by turn 3?
I think it's more likely that the Queen activation hits once and then trades, which is pretty good for a card that costs 3.
Yes, so if it hits, it's better than just a hit.
So this card is good in the mirror, is what you're saying.
Exactly. So if I hit a Fishbone Quill, it goes into play.
Great. Exerted.
Exactly. But that's still, it's the same reasoning why you would like Oswald. Right? So now if they deal with your Oswald on 2, that means they most likely cannot deal with it on 3. Queen on 3.
What's funny about this is it makes the deck have legendaries all the way up the curve. You can do 2-drop Oswald, 3-drop the Queen, Scrooge McDuck. You don't have a 5. Oh, dang. Never mind.
It's version 4.
Version 4, we're going to find the 5-cost blue legendary and play that.
So let me go more deeper on the versions. A version only becomes a version when it makes it to the public.
Okay, so that's why that's why you're on version 3 and I'm so far ahead.
If you want to know, like inner testing, I'm probably on version like 30.
Right.
Before it goes public, it's 3.1, 3.2. 3.2, 3.3, and then it goes public. That's when it becomes 4.
No,
Interesting.
I actually just
knows.
don't label them because Jeremy knows I don't label decks.
Zan doesn't label anything.
Exactly.
Actually.
And then I only label it when I'm giving it out to the public because I feel like it's work to label it. So version 4 is the is the next version that's coming up.
What strikes me about the Queen card, it's not necessarily unproven, right? This card helped win a DLC. I don't remember which one it was in Europe. There was a blue-red deck with the Queen in it that took down a DLC. Heavily item focused, right?
Yep.
So it was similar math, I'm sure. I can't remember how many items he was playing. Probably more than 20.
No, less than 20.
Less than 20.
Yeah, no Oswalds.
True. But yeah, you were right. You were talking about songs earlier in Ariel, right? And Ariel hitting off songs. It's almost the exact same math we used to do in set 2 or set 3 with Ariel hitting songs.
Yep.
Big difference being Ariel gets to do it when she's played. Belle gets to do it the very next turn. Right?
Yep. Definitely
Significant
worse.
downgrade.
But an item stays forever.
True.
And a song is gone in an instant.
And Zan, your deck ended up making the finals, right? Your friend Lorcana Bro.
Yep. Friend and teammate.
Friend and teammate. He's on World Class now?
Yep.
I didn't know. Great. Friend and teammate Lorcana Bro made it to the finals with your exact list.
Yeah. We worked on it together. We went to dinner at the Lumineers house, which was amazing. Thank you so much, Liam and Aaron, for hosting. And then we played some games there. And that's where I convinced Aaron to play the Queen.
Nice. Yeah, it would take some convincing for me to play the Queen as I currently sit here. But that's awesome. He made it to the finals. He lost to Purple Steel.
Yep.
So since we're doing basically a metagame analysis, this is Purple Steel that is basically all characters except for 4 Strength of the Raging Fires. It's a list that you might have seen before, except this one has 3 Benjas in it.
Yep.
I think a pretty reasonable adaptation to the metagame is adding Benja into your Purple Steel deck. Do you think that this is going to give that deck the kick it needs to compete with the Tier 0 Blue Steel?
No, I actually got paired against Purple Steel 3 times in the same tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I 2-0'd it every single time. 1 or 2 games were close, but all the games that were close there were no bells.
No bells made it close. Did they ever play Benja against you and you felt like it really mattered?
No.
Oh, well,
okay, so I'm gonna break down that matchup. What was sad about that matchup was Aaron was first going into the last round.
mm-hmm.
He drew against this person. That person ended up passing Aaron in tiebreaker math, right? And so Aaron was like basically first at the end of day 1, and first all the way through until the first round of top 8. So it just flipped very last second. So when it flipped, that meant that fast forward to the finals, it's Aaron versus who's 2nd seed and this other person who's 1st seed. And so that's the first bit of variance that went against Aaron in terms of the bracket. Then after that, all 3 games, Aaron didn't have a bell. So I believe that if he had it in game 3 or in game 1, Aaron easily wins the tournament. And so the thing that I have, the expectation I have for Blue Steel is that it will top 4 every single tournament, some version of it, because the core is that powerful, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's my version or not. It just matters that, PAWPSICLE, Fortisphere, Bell, Hiram, Baby Tamatoa, Big Tamatoa make the top 4, right? And I think that it will put itself in the finals position quite often, having the higher chance of winning, even when on the draw, and it will take variance for them to lose.
Okay. Ryan, thoughts on Purple Steel? I know you were a big proponent of it going into 2 weekends ago, but I haven't seen you play it since. What's going on with that?
Yeah, and mine was pretty similar to this list in that I had the Benjas. I was on 2 or 3 Benja going into SSG. The big difference between my Purple Steel and this Purple Steel were he's playing all characters. I was playing mostly characters with This Is My Family and Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom.
Nice.
So just a little bit of instant lore gain at the end of games seemed to get me over the edge, which is probably more dangerous for Blue Steel, I would imagine, honestly. I can't remember what all the other characters were in his deck off the top of my head, but I think it's pretty well positioned in the meta. Obviously, there was a lot of it in the field, so seeing one make the top 8 isn't super surprising from the sound of it. But we've known this about Amethyst Steel for a long time, right? All the purple cards are extremely strong, and they draw a lot of cards. You pair it with Steel, and they have all kinds of removal. I think the biggest thing that gives it issues, Blue Steel specifically, is the Genie. I mean, we saw it in that finals match when Sapphire Steel had no answer for Genie, and it just got to quest turn after turn after turn. I think it went for 10 or 12 lore in one of the games, right? So if Genie goes unanswered, the clock becomes really, really fast.
So let's talk about, since we're doing a metagame analysis, we had a lot of data coming in from the 100 Burton Memorial, but there was also a lot of data coming in from Europe. The first tournament that I was paying attention to and out of Europe was the Axion.
Can we take a pause real quick? I want to explain something. So do you guys feel like Purple Steel was seeing play last set?
A little bit, yeah. It was one of the top decks at the end. It was one of the decks that could compete against DKP's Then a Little Lore list. Notably, Kendall Burdett was playing a lot of Purple Steel in the last few weeks of set 6.
Yep, and Zach Bivens.
Yeah, it was picking up steam.
Beat me in the finals of the LCC. Made top 8 of what do you call it?
10K?
No, Continentals.
Zach Bivens is so cool. He's like if Zorro played Lorcana and was white.
And had a beard.
Interesting.
He's basically Zorro, but changed a lot. Basically everything about Zorro, and it's Zach Bivens. Nice.
What the hell, man? I'm more Zorro.
What? No.
What about complexion?
What about complexion?
What about complexion?
Do you think that complexion is what makes Zorro Zorro? No, man. It's the ability to put on a mask, go out there and fight crime with a sword, just like Zach Bivens does.
He has a sword?
Yes.
What?
Where have you been?
Okay, so let me explain what I was trying to get at. Okay, so basically, Purple Steel has been more recently worked on. So you can say like, okay, the deck has been performing well, and there's like versions that were doing well against the last meta, right? So it's been worked on. So let's say it's 90% of the most perfect build against most metas. Now new cards get printed, obviously. Now you got to figure out a new build, right? A more hyper-aggressive version, a mid-range version. Right now, it seems like the only way you can go is more aggressive, more aggressive, more aggressive. And so now, let's say it was at 90 and then dropped all the way down to 80 because it needed more work because of the new cards. Okay, now how hard are Cobra and, what do you call it? This Is My Family?
This Is My Family, Cobra.
And whatever else there is. I can't think of anything else.
Usually playing a little bit of, sometimes they can be playing a little bit of the new Queen, the 4-drop Queen that taps to get some
that card's hilarious.
Hilarious Queen.
I like it.
So you add these cards. How hard was it to figure out that build?
Pretty much not difficult at all. I would say.
Yeah. So basically, day one, I was like, okay, let's add all these cards. The Queen, I still think probably makes it worse, makes the deck worse. It's just kind of a gimmick. And it's probably ink majority of the time, but whatever. Basically, let's say it took that long to figure out it's just Cobra and This Is My Family. So now the deck went from 80 to 95%, right? Because it's still playing Queen, which I think is bad for the deck. All right. So now we're at 95. Now Blue Steel, how much was it seeing play last set?
There was a little bit of Kiwi Birds, but I would say that it was a pretty fringe aggressive deck.
Fringe, for sure.
Yeah. And how many like popsicles and stuff was Kiwi Birds playing?
I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you.
0.
Okay, it's 0.
It wasn't playing high arms. So now the item package got so freaking good that you're forced to play
some items.
You're forced to play items. So now this deck that was basically seeing 0 play, and these cards like Belle, Scrooge, Baby Tamatoa, would you say they're more difficult to insert properly?
Certainly.
Right. And so let's say the deck was like at 50% because that's how much it's been worked on. And that's how much it should be worked on because it sucked.
Right.
It was terrible. All right. And any person who thinks it was good was delusional.
Dan, you're going to upset everybody.
It's okay.
Oh, well, then in that case, allow me to introduce you to my... Anyway.
So we're at 50%, right? And now We got the proper cards. We got these more powerful cards. Now, how much does the deck need to improve, right? So let's say I brought it from 50% to 70%.
Yeah.
Right? We still got to figure out that last 30% and try to make the deck the most optimal, clean version of itself. And let's say that was version 2, right? And then version 3 got us all the way up to 75%.
Sure.
Right? We're still working to try and get to the optimal version.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to go backwards and then you're going to go forward. And it's not going to happen alone. It's going to be like basically a bunch of people working on it together, right? Like once it gets into the hive mind, the hive mind accepted blue steel over blue red, now what's happening? The work is being done faster. The results are coming out faster. And I'm just trying to interpret them and try to make the best version I can possibly make. And the moment the deck gets into the 95 territory, where I think purple steel is already at, the dominance is going to be like unlike anything that we've seen, or it's going to feel closer to Buck. I think it's going to be more oppressive than anything we've seen in Lorcana.
All right, let's keep it moving along. I want to talk more about the metagame, different parts of the metagame, because we actually do have a lot to cover. There were 2 big tournaments in Europe this weekend. One was the Axion tournament that had 230 people, but don't pay too much attention to that one because it was a set 6 tournament a couple of weeks into set 7. Don't love that. But it is what it is. But what I do want to call attention to is the prizing. So apparently the Axion winner is a 230 person event, got a all expense paid trip to Japan.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome.
Paid for a flight, paid for a hotel, the whole deal. Pretty freaking cool. I think game stores, more of that, less air fryers, you know?
Thank God that's not in our game.
Yeah, well, it's just a Yu-Gi-Oh thing. Everyone already has an air fryer. Is the problem with that prize structure, is how I feel anyway. Everyone who wants one has one.
Maybe that demographic is like college.
Oh, because Yu-Gi-Oh players are kids. They're all looking for their first air fryer. Anyway.
I think moms love air fryers.
Nice.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So I guess they're winning it for their moms.
I don't know much about
wives.
Okay. Wives like an air fryer.
How many air fryers do they like to have at once, though?
One max.
Right. Space. Well, that's the problem. So once you won a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, you're done.
Yep.
You don't get to play anymore because you already have an air fryer.
Sorry.
This one's for Christmas. I already got, Mom, it's an air fryer again for Christmas. I just keep winning tournaments. Okay. Next was the Lucky Ducky Sitting Duck tournament, and it was duck themed. It was in Germany. This one had about 130 players. It was pretty cool. A lot of Artabax's blue steel sort of hybrid aggressive item deck in that one, and that's sort of the next deck I want to talk about. There's just a lot of blue steel going around right now. They're saying this one's good into us, the sort of blue steel items strong package. I used to call it.
Yeah. So we can go back to the lesson that we just learned, right? Like aggro, much more solved than a mid-range win really fast at the end. Like unbeatable end game basically. So I think that if you like don't plan on playing the final version of the deck, then play an aggressive version, right? I think that, you know, when in doubt, Quest works a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not opposed to an aggro blue steel, but I'm just set on finding, you know, the end boss, like the best blue steel like it could possibly be. And I refuse to believe that that's aggro.
Sure. And so, okay, I guess basically let's give the viewers the information that they crave. What do you think this this evolution and everything that happened with Purple Steel winning, with Amber Steel doing pretty good in one of the European tournaments, and with Blue Steel dominating, how do you think the meta is going to react for Charlie's 10K coming on next weekend? It's Charlie's collectible show. It's an 8K, but he almost always makes it a 10K. This is at Charlie's collectible show.
It's already been announced as a 10K.
I think it got upgraded.
It's already at 10K, so that's great. I pretty much was calling it a 10K when I really shouldn't have been, but I just knew it was going to be a 10K. Basically, so Charlie's philosophy is he doesn't ever want to overpromise, so he makes it an 8K, and then once it hits a certain threshold, he makes it a 10K every time. Because it usually hits that threshold. We got people flying in. How do you think the meta is going to look? I mean, what do you think are going to be the top decks by percentages? How prominent is Amber Steel going to be? How much Purple Steels are going to be? And how much Blue Steels are going to be?
So I think that, you know, Atlanta has always been red purple town.
Always has been. Deck's dead now, and everybody knows it, except for Terrace Black.
Such. So we should talk about where we think a red purple person goes. Are they like a bandwagon type person that like goes and plays blue steel, or are they someone who will hold on to red purple so hard that they've tried to find the thing that shares the most similarity to it and then goes to purple steel?
Interesting. Probably that. I've seen a
let's
lot.
Think about No, I'm Not Here, right? He just loved his rabbits so much he couldn't give them up,
and he's playing them in purple
and
steel
he
now.
had to go
Purple steel. Okay, so now we see like this past weekend, purple steel won twice, and I think that, and we're a red purple town, so I think that they'll probably end up on a huge percentage being purple steel. I would say 20 to 25% will be purple steel.
You think that the metagame in this tournament is going to be 20 to 25% purple steel? That means that you should be building your deck to beat purple steel. How do you beat purple steel?
I mean, just play blue steel.
Play blue steel, items focused. I kind of never lost to purple steel so long as I played it. I played it at the SSG a bunch and I beat it, and then I beat it in this tournament this past weekend a bunch. So I'm still pretty much just crushing that deck, and I don't really know what it is. I just draw a lot more cards in them, play a lot more guys in them, and play a lot more cards in them for free.
I also think that Amber Steel Songs is well positioned against it.
Amber Steel Songs is another prominent deck that I wanted to talk about because as much as Atlanta is a red-purple city, there's always a contingent. I'm looking at Brian Genosa that play Yellow Steel at the locals and just never put it down and seem to never stop winning with it.
Yeah, I would say Amber Steel color combination has won CCS the most.
Mm-hmm.
I've won with it, and DeCandy has won with it twice.
No, yeah, you're right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say Amber Steel is always a dark horse in these parts. I'll say it'll be at a healthy 15%.
15% Amber Steel, 25% Purple Steel, and does that leave a whopping, do this math for me, 60% for Blue Steel?
I think
on Amber Steel as well, you got to think there's so many versions out there. It's not figured out, right? There's so much variety in what people are playing. New cards being Troubadour, Bianca, some Gantu sneaking into some lists, right? There's so much variety out there. Which list do you think is the best that shows up?
I think classic Amber Steel Songs is the one that does well, because let's say you play why are you doing this?
Look, a cat.
Why did you do this?
First time podcast appearance for the cat.
Look at this cat. What do you mean why I get this away from you? Didn't want it. You would have been mad if it was chewing on the wires down below the table.
Yeah, I feel like we're just asking for trouble. This cat is...
Ronnie loves me.
What are you talking about? This cat's just walking around sniffing. It's about to lay down and be totally cool. I think trying to shoo it away is asking for trouble.
Yeah, basically, like the moment I turn on the camera, she'll just like jump on my shelf, start like look at me, and just like knock over a thing, knock over a second thing. I'm like, what? I just made you food. Come on.
That's like attention you have. See, I brought him. I brought her up. And then she like got her time in the camera that she wanted. She clearly has always wanted.
Oh my God.
And then what happened? She peacefully walked away.
The problem is Zan and the cat are in a power struggle.
That's
what's happening.
Yeah,
Cat's trying to take back a little dominance. Zan takes back a little dominance.
So this is Zan's wife's cat, now Zan's cat, and they,
I have fully adopted.
Of course, I said now Zan's cat, but so this is the first time that they've moved in together, so they're still just figuring each other out a little bit, but they pretty much have got it down. But I'm telling you, Zan, you see what happened? You put it on camera, it gets its 15 minutes, and then, bye.
That's the nicest she's ever been.
Right, because we gave the cat what it wanted. We gave it center, we gave it attention,
and she went upstairs. Holy moly! She'll oh my God, I can't believe it. This is
all right. So Amber Steel.
Which
version of Amber Steel?
We're doing
Amber Steel. Yeah, I think Classic Songs is the one. I think that Diggy Diggy Hole. The problem with it I see is that it's being like kind of stretched in multiple directions, right? Like let's say you go the Benja Gontu route, which I did lose to this past weekend, right? I lost to it, and then my opponent immediately lost to Blue Red. twice and then was basically out of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that'll happen. There's still a big amount of people playing blue-red.
Exactly. So I still think that this tournament will have 15 to 20% blue-red. I think that this is going to be a tournament where basically majority of the people are going to be playing on like decks that have proven themselves. And there's going to be less variety than we've ever experienced because that's what Blue Steel does. By round 2, I believe that every deck that isn't one of these decks will be out.
Whoa.
You know what I mean?
What about my super secret purple-green hyper aggro deck?
I mean, if you decide to play that deck, then I think that you will be one of the exceptions just because I think that this is a skill game and I think that people can break it. But I mean, even you are probably feeling kind of questionable about playing a less powerful thing.
I'm almost certainly playing Blue Steel. I've been practicing a lot of Blue Steel. What I will say is I just feel like I haven't had time to like sit down and test with you and talk it out with you. And I've gotten like kind of mid testing on like some of the online clients where it's just I win every time with the purple green deck. But like I'm kind of rolling my eyes in the back of my head because I'm like, no way I should have won this game.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's do yourself a favor. Friday we get a more comprehensive ladder.
Yeah,
you know, wake up early, jam that ladder, and see how fast you climb.
Well, not even that. There's going to be a 1K at Gubu Games on Friday. That's gonna be. I'm gonna.
Litmus test.
But that's a worse litmus test.
Why?
Let me explain because
all the best people are gonna be there.
No, Lorcana. Yeah, you should definitely go to the tournament. But what I'm saying is the reason why is because let's say you get up to like, you know, it's a scaling MMR.
Yeah.
Scaling ELO, right? And so there's just gonna be a point at which everybody's gonna be just jamming just to climb the ladder. And if you're rising to the top, every opponent is harder and harder and harder. And sometimes when you go to these tournaments, your round 9 tournament, your round 9 opponent is easier than your round 1 opponent.
The issue with that is the reason that I think it might not be better is because a lot of these players in the Gubu Games 1K are gonna be playing in the Charlie's 10K, and they're probably running back the same deck. So you literally just get like a small sample of the meta game of the 10K.
Yeah, but I would say the best players that are coming to this tournament
no
are not gonna be there Friday.
Yeah, they are. What do you mean you're gonna be there Friday?
You are in the spaces. Basically, everyone's.
I really want to go to this tournament, but my family's having an event, and I have committed myself to the event.
Oh my gosh!
You can't lose to Zan at the.
Yeah, we have this yearly dinner every single year. I mean, Jeremy's been to it 3 times.
Oh, it's that banquet.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was an Eid thing.
No. It's a iftar.
Oh, yeah, you know what? It is an iftar. That's totally my bad. You're right about that.
We have it every single year, and
I've been twice.
Yeah.
And your little brother copied you because one year it was me and you, and that was cool, and your little brother liked it. And then the next year he brought his white friend, and his white friend sat next to me and was like, "This stuff is all crazy." And I was like, "I've done this before." Like I did it last year. I was like, "I already had this outfit, you know. Don't even worry about it."
Last dark horse for talking about CCS metagame.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that you could say that Atlanta is a green steel town. Zan won in Las Vegas with it. After that, you know, every tournament you went to, green steel, right? We've seen it make a little bit of a comeback. It had a pretty good showing at the Hunter Borton. It had 4 decks in the top 8.
That's true.
Green steel. A little bit of variety in there, right? One was a pirate location deck, and the other 3 I think were more of
which I lost
discard.
to. Lost my winning into.
Sure, right. So
really,
is that something people?
It was yeah. If I could describe the match, it was the most. I won game 1 in like 2 minutes.
Sure.
We go to game 2. I'm trying to remember what happened in game 2.
He played John Silver on 3, the one that
I mulliganed 6 cards,
okay,
and I didn't have a play until turn 3.
LOL.
And my opponent just went like 1 drops me, Pete, like, and just out aggroed me. I basically like I don't think I had to play until turn 4 actually.
So you got locationed out.
Okay, now we go to game 3.
DeVille Manor goes coast to coast.
My opponent played a Shift Diablo.
Yeah.
And basically didn't do really much anything else.
Yeah.
and I was forced to like Hiram, and I end up drawing 30 cards, and I didn't see one Let the Storm Rage on, one Strength, one Along Came Zeus, 0 bells, and so then they got to play they got to draw 30 cards, and then their deck looked like a better version of my deck because they got to play the Prince John, no,
John Silver, DeVille
and
Manor.
the locations. And then I was like, okay, let me look at the bottom of my deck. My bottom of the deck was 3 Zeus, 4 Strength, 4 Let the Storm Rage on, all my bells. I was like, what? How did this happen?
You didn't shuffle good enough. I actually had somebody comment on to me this past weekend. They were like, I saw your games at the SSG, and I really like how you shuffled. You didn't just do like the regular ones. You like kind of took the middle out and put it on top a couple times. And so now I'm going to start doing that. And I was like, great. Like, oh my gosh. Before that, they were just doing what was it called? It's like the riffle is when you do this. What's it called when you just like do the regular shuffle? What's that called?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess who even cares? It's not the riffle shuffle, just your regular shuffle, but then I kind of mix it up a little bit. You got to be mixing it up, guys. In a shuffle, you have to do a couple different.
Are we really saying that I didn't shuffle well? What are we talking about?
Zan, you're bad at shuffling. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. You just suck at it.
What? It was unreal. Like just like the finals, I would say like if I played that matchup 100 times, that I think that I would win majority of the time. But sometimes, things don't work. Like your just draws are so terrible. Like you weren't meant to win that game, right? There wasn't a path. I feel like I could have won this. I won this match, and that's okay. Like with the highs come also the lows, and it's fine if I lose. And what this tournament actually taught me was I need to make the deck better. I think I can make the deck better, and so I'm on that journey to make the deck better.
Wow, give me that list when you're ready for that. I'm so excited to do it. Our next topic, after we predicted the metagame for the weekend, is what card are we looking to ban? I think blue steel is a problem, and I think something from it needs to be banned. Zan, I heard that you had an opinion about this.
Let's ban PAWPSICLE.
Let's ban PAWPSICLE.
Yeah, that's pretty much the choice that will create the best outcomes for pretty much everybody. Puts red purple back into the meta. It gives all the colors a proper identity, right? I think that blue-red ends up becoming more DKP style, Maui Shark style with actions and McDuck Manor and stuff, more like that style of deck. And then blue steel remains a item deck, no longer stays the best deck because it doesn't have double PAWPSICLE, and just only has Fortisphere. And then I think red purple's back in the mix. I think that green steel is back in the mix, and I think all these other decks can play much more mid-range variety.
Sounds good. I mean, I'm totally down for banning. So I got interviewed at SSG, and they asked me what card I thought should get banned, and I said PAWPSICLE in that interview. So I've actually been on the PAWPSICLE train for like a long time. Yeah, so I would agree with that. You don't think there's anything else that needs to go? What about Hiram? What about Tamatoa? Are these cards that need to be touched at all?
I don't think so. I think that you take out that enabler, and it will make those cards seem really fair.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like Fortisphere costs 1 to sacrifice, and if they don't want to ban anything, right? Like let's say Ravensburger doesn't want to ban anything. I think that if they make it errata it and make it a 3 cost PAWPSICLE, that's safe.
Well, they're probably going to errata it because they errated Bucky, and I think that's how they want to like approach things going forward. So you're saying PAWPSICLE at 3 would be safe. What if they did like a super light errata? So it's like PAWPSICLE, but it costs 3 to banish it, something like that.
Yeah, I mean I think that's cool too.
Okay,
it can even cost 2 to banish.
Banish it.
More reasonable.
Okay, right. I mean, they thought free was reasonable at first, so
it draws a card after when it's banished.
The problem,
it doesn't draw a card until you banish it.
The Bucky
if you
errata
paid 2.
Yes,
was they just banned Bucky, right? They just made it so bad and so expensive that it would never be relevant again.
Right. So would you like to see them try like a lighter touch with the erratas, or do you think that that's how they should do it? The errata should always just be like basically soft bands.
Yeah, you have to find a medium ground. Otherwise, why are you doing an errata?
Right.
You
Just
might as
ban
well
it.
just ban the card.
Oh, I got it.
So it has to be a middle ground, right? Maybe it's 2-cost Popsicle that costs.
Yeah,
money
just
to
change the
ban it.
text that until you sacrifice it, you don't draw the card. And then and you can even just make it it costs 1 to activate it.
Interesting. So if you sacrifice it for a bell or whatever, you wouldn't draw a card?
Yep.
So this is a chromatic star or sphere, not a chromatic star situation. That makes sense to me.
Right. Yeah. If you want to talk about Magic fully, it would make eggs, not eggs.
Yeah, you're totally right. Ryan, I shouldn't have done this, but chromatic star and chromatic sphere are basically the same thing. They were 1-drop artifacts. One of them had you could sacrifice it to add a mana, and one of them you could also sacrifice it to add a mana, but their clause for when you would draw a card was different. So one of them drew a card whenever it went to the graveyard. That was the good one. The other one only drew a card if you used that ability.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of why Zan and I are so well versed in okay, if we're adjusting the knobs on this card, if it draws a card when you banish it, that's pretty different than if it draws a card whenever you why'd you make me do this? if it draws a card whenever you activate the ability to banish it.
Yeah.
One can be enabled by so many different things.
By the way, it's fixing the voice. As soon as you took it off, there was a bunch of echo because you were unaware of what we were hearing. All right, cool. Let's keep on.
So that's why I thought it'd be prudent to bring those cards up. A lot of our listeners don't play Magic the Gathering, never did, but a lot of them do. And so now they just know exactly what I'm talking about because one of those cards sees play and one doesn't because of where draw a card is on the card. Just interesting things to think about if you're planning to get rid of PAWPSICLE or keep PAWPSICLE. Or errata in different ways. Those are some of the knobs available on that card. I would be interested to see them soft banning a couple of them. Maybe there's something that you could do with Hiram where it when it enters only on quests, right? That'd be a pretty big balance change to Hiram, not enters and quests. And I think that if they soft touched maybe 3 or 4 of the cards, that could be really interesting. And I agree with Ryan that if you're going to errata a card versus ban it, make that a meaningful distinction. Because what they did with Bucky was they basically banned it. They soft banned it. You might as well ban it. And I just think, if we're doing erratas, let's try the light touch on 3 or 4 of the cards in blue steel.
Well, the worst thing that can happen is the errata is not good enough. And that's scary for them.
I'm wondering why that's the worst thing that could happen.
So, okay, I can give you an easy solution. Let's say you had an in-house testing team, right? Let's say the in-house testing team consisted of the Worlds players, right? People who were playing at Worlds. Or if they just hired me, I would just basically be like, hey, give me, let me pick up, 3-4 other people, and we'll come to your headquarters, and you guys tell us all the ideas that you guys have, and I will prove it to you that this card, this errata is good and this errata is bad, and this is how it's going to affect the game. That's pretty easy for me to do, but it doesn't even have to be me. It just has to be someone who has that skill set.
Yeah, I'm not sure Ravensburger could afford you, but they could maybe get somebody else to do it.
Yeah, but the problem becomes it's when it's the thinnest, the thinnest errata, right? The one that you're saying, the one that would allow it to be playable without still being one of the best decks in the format. And so, I think that off the cuff, I would say it's what I just said, which is PAWPSICLE would cost 1 to play, and then cost 1 to activate its ability and draw the card. Now, where do I get that? Where do I get that line of text? Because when I'm looking at Sapphire items, there's a card with a PAWPSICLE on it. I don't know what that name is. It literally has a PAWPSICLE on it.
Jumbo Pop?
Jumbo Pop.
Jumbo Pop. Yes. Jumbo Pop costs 3, and then you can sacrifice it for free to draw a card.
Oh, Jumbo Pop. I thought you sacrificed it to heal all of your characters for 2.
Yep, and draw a card.
I didn't know it drew a card. That's crazy.
Right, but how much does that see play?
I mean, I would say 0.
And now let's say that effect costs 3. It sees 0 amount of play in an item format. Now let's bring it back down to 2. Right, costs 1 and 1.
Interesting. The thing about that is Jumbo Pop is not inkable. Much to consider there.
Yes, I mean, that's another part that they could add.
Let's talk about when we're talking about this banning. I've talked about this to death, both on my spaces and on the winner's interview for SSG. Why Popsicle and not some of the powerful enablers, right? Why not just hit Hiram or Tamatoa or whatever and leave Popsicle? Because Popsicle's so innocuous on its own. It doesn't do anything.
Popsicle doesn't do anything.
I'm saying, why are you choosing Popsicle instead of some of the broken
I
blue
think
cards?
that blue steel still remains the best deck. I think it actually becomes even better when no one else can do Hiram. Okay, so let me explain. So right now, Bell, Hiram, and Scrooge are fighting with each other. There's a tug of war, right? You play Bell, you get rid of an item, your Scrooge is less likely to come down for free.
Right.
Now I'm thinking, okay, if I follow up with an item and then into a Hiram, then Scrooge is even more likely not to enter for free.
Yeah, my ink Scrooge at that point.
Exactly. And so unless its body is important to the board, then that route is dead. Now, if my deck now is forced to play Maurice's Workshop, it makes the rest of the deck more itemy, because like the engine is much more consistent, and it flows a lot better with cards like Oswald and everything, right? Because you have more items. No one else is playing Hiram, so they can't get that quick advantage, right? Hiram is actually the best card against blue steel because it's so hard to remove. It gives your blue-red opponent a chance to. That's the place where they get their advantage. Now, if you ban that card, you just made blue steel better than blue-red forever. Right? So now one of its enemies is gone, and Hiram is definitely good against some of these decks like purple steel and all this other stuff, but it just forces them to commit more to the item package, which means that Scrooge ends up being great, which is a great card if you played it for free. If you went like Popsicle, Maurice's Workshop, Scrooge, that's a great line.
Right.
And you're now more likely to do it because Hiram is no longer an option. So it's just creating. I think that Hiram doesn't get them exactly what they want. I will continue to try to build the best version of blue steel, and I'm pretty positive the end result of that is still the best deck.
No, I mean I agree with you completely. That's I was sort of asking as almost a devil's advocate position, because I know people are going to be like, Popsicle doesn't do anything. Talk to me about Tamatoa. That card lets you play an item for free. That's broken.
So yeah, now let's talk about Tamatoa. Baby Tamatoa, let's say you're playing blue-red. What items are you bringing back when Popsicle doesn't exist?
People really want you to call that card Teenage Tamatoa, by the way. The baby one is a green 1/4.
Yeah, that one is basically is already dead.
It's a drab little crap.
Never born.
Yeah, it's not real.
I'm just letting you know that
he doesn't deserve the title of Tamatoa.
Liam called it Teenage Tamatoa on camera, and so you're going up against some dark forces, my friend. Some powerful forces.
I'm gonna call it baby because it just feels right. You know,
things better left untouched.
Like, have you ever played Mario Kart?
I've played Mario Kart.
So where's Teenage Mario?
Where is Teenage Mario? I feel like we got an idea that we could sell to Nintendo now.
But there's no Teenage Mario, right? Like, everybody's interested in the baby and the grown-up.
Baby Mario, Metal Mario, Teenage Mario.
Dr. Mario.
In the Baby Shark song, did they ever get to Teenage Shark?
Teenage Shark, pop, 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 pop.
Nope. Doesn't have the same role.
Baby Tammy.
Baby Tamatoa. All right, you were saying about Baby Tamatoa, by the way?
Without Popsicle, it's no other color combinations besides, what do you call it? Blue Steel would be able to take advantage of it. So it fixes the price of that card and makes Maui Shark come back into the equation.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, Popsicle being able to, like, you being able to use it without even having a like a target for it, right? And just being able to do it for free. Like, when you have 2 Popsicles, you're like, oh, I don't have to think about the 1 ink I have left at the end of a turn. Maybe I need to bring it back with the Tamatoa. It's just like autopilot. It's like, oh, it's gonna go in the discard and whenever I need it. Without that, it's just like the game's fair.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that was a lot of time. That concludes the Lorcana section of our podcast. We're going to move on to international politics. I have on my notes here, it says Poland is experiencing a miracle regrowth in economy. Is that what we... Never mind. Hold on. These are the wrong notes. I just wanted to talk also... I mean, that's pretty much all. We were just ready to get to the plug. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? We could talk about the event I played this past weekend, but nobody wants to hear about that because I didn't win, right?
No, we want to hear. What do you think went wrong?
I played Blue Steel. First things first, everyone greeted me and congratulated me as the champion. So I was in a horrible spot.
Amazing.
Is it amazing? Because I was playing in a room full of Nationals competitors. I lost to Kevin, great player, top forward in Dallas.
Very good.
It was the Blue Steel mirror. He was playing exactly your list, my list, but no queens. So my actual list that I was playing in that moment, because I wasn't playing queens this past weekend. Mm-hmm. Game 1 and 2 were sort of back and forth on like who had the cards. So a lot of times that matchup comes down to like one player doesn't have any cards and one player has like a bunch of cards in their hand. The person with a bunch of cards in their hand usually wins. Game 2, I took a line where I inked a Hiram with like Fishbone Quill. I inked all my cards to get out a fast Tamatoa. And that wasn't as good as if I just like took it slow, played the Hiram and accumulated cards over time. So I like rushed against Kevin and died. And I thought about it and I like kind of rushed for no reason.
No raisins.
No raisins. I didn't gain raisins for rushing, so no raisins. And yeah, honestly, I just like I went home and I played just like a ton of games into Lorcanito after that, with just like the emphasis on like I got to learn basically not to rush, but if I do rush, like what that looks like and when I can rush. But most of the time, I'm just trying to accumulate more cards than everybody else with this deck, and I like had gotten away from that in favor of like exerting all my inking and like jamming all these big guys. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of like what I learned this weekend and like my journey. I didn't like, you know how I don't like when people are like congratulating me. It was so funny. Kevin was like, well, you know, I'm going to lose. I'm up against the champion. I was like, bro, you played in nationals. You're like a higher status than me in this game, in this store right now.
Well, I think that part of the problem is there's no status.
Right. Of course. I didn't say status. There's no status.
There's no status.
There's no status. If you're worried about status, then you're probably high status. Don't even worry about it. There's not status.
But just think about my mentality before I had any results.
Right.
It was never that, and I still try to wipe the slate clean, because when you do win, that's when there is an enormous amount of pressure, and then it like you have to get your mental straight. That's definitely like, don't let the person talk you into being like you're the winner.
Right. I couldn't handle it. They were talking like that, and then I rushed. I feel like I rushed because they were talking like that. So there's no status. If you eat Belvita blueberry cookies, it doesn't give you more status. If you drink Pocari Sweat at a Lorcana tournament, it doesn't give you more status. Okay.
It just makes you more hydrated.
Right. I mean, Pocari Sweat is the de facto status beverage at Charlie's Collectible Show, and that's just
facts.
That's just facts. Wait, hold on a minute. We can't be like there's no status, but then Zan facts on Pocari Sweat's the de facto status beverage.
I'm just joking. But let me touch a little bit more on it. So there was a time in Magic I built this deck. It was called Blue Green Urza, and I played in state champs, which was a North Carolina state championship, because I was living in North Carolina at the time.
Oh, I played in that state championship as well. I top 8'd. I was playing Soul Tide Death Shadow.
You even top 4'd.
I top 4'd. I was playing Soul Tide Death Shadow, and I lost to a jerk on Devoted Druid. We don't have to talk about it.
So we don't have to talk about the deck, but I ended up winning that tournament. And after when I won that tournament, this was a deck that nobody else was playing in the tournament. And I tried to tell everybody, hey, I think my deck is busted. You should play it. Nobody played it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm just gonna win the tournament.
Not only did nobody play it, we lived together at the time, and everyone made fun of you all night for it.
I know. Yeah, it was kind of hilarious.
It was insane. It was actually weird.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, hey guys, I just won a whole bunch online. I think it's busted. And everybody online was like, it was crazy because everybody online, I was streaming it, was like, Zan, I think that you broke it.
I think you broke it. And
they were hyping me up, and there was like 300-400 people watching.
Everybody at the house was like, "Oh, look, Zan thinks he broke it again. What a jerk!" And like, it was me and you in the house were like, I mean, okay. Like, what? I was literally like, I would play that deck obviously if I had the cards, but it had a bunch of cards from like.
No, I think we hedged our bets for you because we built the Sultai deck.
Yeah.
And which I think was an absolutely fantastic deck.
It was a blast.
Yeah, I mean, the deck was awesome, and I certainly could have won the tournament as well. No, I didn't stand a chance against Urza deck, but it would have made it to the finals if you won the last round. But basically, then what happened was the next weekend everybody was convinced. They're like, "Oh, if Zan won, then he must be right." And then I made one vital change, which was adding Whir of Invention. And
Dr. Sword combo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the next iteration, because then it was people who were on the Patreon, aka Metafy in this instance, and the people who weren't. Right? And so the moment you win, that's like the moment where you set the meta, and now you got to adapt against yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that happens to you all the time.
Exactly. And so now you're in the hot seat. You got to adapt.
I have to adapt. I would rather just complain. Is that an option that I have?
No. I just want you to be prepared, right? Because I expect.
I'll be prepared.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be prepared. You're right. This weekend I'm casting Be Prepared.
I mean, I just think that I think that you always have enormous potential, and I think that you can chain off wins at any moment.
I feel like that too. Your story made me wish that there was a Death Shadow in Lorcana, so I've been brainstorming that the whole time. It gets -X, where X is number of what X is your opponent's lore.
That's way harder to do.
It's harder to do. Or I'm trying to figure out how to design it. It has to also quest for that much to be like the real hitter. So if your opponent's at 19 lore, it's a 12/12 that quests for 12.
I figured it out. It's you need to be playing John Silver.
Oh, nice. But if your opponent is at 7 or less lore, it just dies when you play it. And it only costs 1. And it's inkable.
You're basically playing it. Oswald is the closest thing to Death Shadow.
Oswald is the closest thing to Death Shadow. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up our podcast. I just wanted to plug some things before we signed off. I wanted to talk about the Metafy, Zan's Metafy, that keeps us going, keeps the bills to pay for all of our wonderful audio equipment and things like that. Zan, you want to plug your Metafy real quick?
Yeah, go check out the Metafy if you're planning on playing any tournaments. Let me help you play the best deck.
Come visit me on Spaces every Monday at 8:30. I run a space on X. It's sort of an early morning thing. You can come. You can ask questions to me, an aspiring pro and grinder, and also have a lot of pros stop by. Last week we were co-hosted by Ryan Walker here, how he graduated to a friend of mine, and then also R&B stopped by, Lorcana Justice stopped by, and said some words. So yeah, great way to interact with the pros and interact with some of the people that you see doing well in Lorcana events or my spaces. Also, I wanted to plug Gubu. Gubu Games is having a 5K on April 5th. Sign up now because a week before the tournament starts, the price to sign up goes up. So get in while you can on Melee. We could maybe post a Melee link in the description. Okay, great. We'll post a Melee link in the description. Also, want to see you Friday night at Gubu. If you're coming into Atlanta to play in the 10K, you're getting here on Friday night, you can go to Gubu Games, new store. They're having a little 1K. It'll be a great way to sort of get your perspective, get a snapshot of the Charlie's metagame. And I think that's it for our sponsors as far as I'm concerned. Thanks again to Joshua Paltry for the playmats. I know we're not. I know I just wanted to say that just now. Thanks to Joshua Paltry for the playmats, and that could be our show, everybody. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.